So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Aston Villa versus Brentford this weekend, and oh my God, the entrance music is still going on in my ear at the moment. So I have absolutely no idea what's going on there. But we do have Brentford this weekend, and Paddy, how are we feeling about it, especially after, I suppose, all the games we've had over the last couple of weeks and months?
Look, it's hard not to be upbeat or excited about what's happening. I know you're hearing me twice there. If you want to let me ramble, you can sort your hearing out. But I'm absolutely I'm up for every game that we are playing at the moment, apart from the pedestrian game we played last night. But I think that was just what we needed, to be honest. Our team didn't engage us, and we came out of it unscathed without any fresh injury worries. Obviously, we found out today about a couple of injuries that we weren't sure about, and that was Robin Oates and Yuri Tielemans and Leon Bailey. So we need to be on our game now. We've got the Christmas fixtures coming and a lot of winnable games in there. So we need to be up for this big time, and hopefully we can put out a team that's strong enough to go and beat Brentford, who haven't been at the top of their game for the last few weeks. They've 1 win in 5, and that win was against Luton. So it's going to be an interesting lineup given the injuries and suspensions that will be served at the weekend. So the team sheet tantrum is going to be strange. I think we're going to be looking at certain players that are brought in, wondering where they're going to be playing and what position they're going to be playing in. So that's a story for Sunday. But for now, yes, to answer your question, after going on for 2 minutes, I'm very optimistic and very confident, and really looking forward to this Christmas festive games, let's call them.
Well, I did a preview podcast, and you know what? Actually, before I go into it, isn't it great to know that my mum watches the podcast as well, and she's watching live, because she just texted me there to ask me to maybe tell me why my sound might be a small little bit off, and that's fantastic. Hi, ma'am. I did a piece with the Ealing Road podcast with Mike from the Mike Johnston from the Ealing Road podcast, and it was mostly revolving around Aston Villa. It was an opposition preview piece, and it was just before the Mostar game. And when I was talking to him, he mentioned that they're absolutely ravaged with injuries at the moment. Brentford, absolutely ravaged with injuries. Like Rico Henry's out. Like their whole left-hand side is down essentially. Rico Henry's going to be out. Aaron Hickey's going to be out. Kevin Shad is going to be out. Brian Mbuemo's going to be out. You know, they're all big names. They're big names. Like that left-hand side, it's potentially going to be Vitaliana back there at left back, potentially for them. And we know he plays normally in central midfield. So it's going to be interesting. And I'm always to a degree nervous at any game. And this game, I suppose I'm still nervous as well, because even though they haven't come out of the traps this season, really, like they have in previous seasons under Thomas Frank, a lot of it has been down to personnel and people being available. Now, personally as well, I think an awful lot, and I didn't get a chance to ask Mike this, but I think a lot of it is down to the fact that, you know, they've replaced David Raya with Flicken in goals. There's a certain level of security, I suppose, that David Raya brought this team. And potentially, I think that they're maybe missing that more. Obviously, the goals from Ivan Toney as well is a huge thing to take out of this team. They've tried to replace that in the likes of Neil Maupay. And it looks like, I imagine he's playing up top with probably Vissa beside him. But it'll be interesting to see what formation they come out with, Paddy. And you know, this Aston Villa team, obviously, their away form hasn't been the same as our home form, but I think that even though we have a couple of players that are carrying knocks and injured themselves, like the likes of Tielemans and Bailey, and missing Douglas Luiz and Luca Dean, I think it's going to be a measured performance from Aston Villa at the weekend. And they're going to have to be on their game against this Brentford team, because it's two very good managers together coming up against each other. Thomas Frank is a very good manager, and some believe he was in the frame to be Aston Villa manager if they couldn't coax Unai Emery. But we did coax Unai Emery, so it's going to be really interesting to see what he does and what his team is when we do go out in the G-Tech. If I was here all year, I probably, and I had to look it up beforehand, I probably wouldn't have got what the sponsor of the Brentford Stadium was, but it's the G-Tech apparently.
The G-Tech Community Stadium, yeah. Look, they have had the hex on us away from home. I see someone in the comments saying we haven't won at Brentford since 1953. We did fight out a draw in Unai Emery's towards the back end of last season. I think it was 1-1, was it? Memory serves me correct. And then somebody else, and I have no access to the comments, or I put it up, but somebody else will say that they are our bogey team, but Unai is the bogey picker. So he's just like he has overturned all of these ones where, you know, beating Man City, beating Man United at home, all of these things have all been turned around. Some amazing performances put in. So you have to think that the days of saying, you know, that's prime Villa and things like that are over. And he is just absolutely tearing into as much footage as he can over the next 24 hours to get it into the players' heads what way we're going to line up on Sunday and who's going to be playing where and have them ready.
And I suppose that's the biggest piece. Like the team sheet tantrum will be I suppose a more awaited one, I think, at the weekend, because of the fact that we do have a knock to Bailey, we do have knocks to Tielemans, and we know for a fact that our the Dougie Luiz and Dina are out. Now, the obvious replacements I think are there for Dougie Luiz and for Dina, but if we're down Tielemans and if we're down Bailey, who are the obvious replacements then, I suppose, in that instance? Like it's going to be really interesting to see. I can't imagine that Jacob Ramsey doesn't start this game, and I would probably say Dendoncker is, if Tielemans does have a knock, I'd probably say Dendoncker is in the wheelhouse to start this game as well, in the middle of midfield. But it'll be interesting to see what he does. Like, as long as McGinn is fit, you can manipulate that midfield, because you can put him in any one of the four positions in there. He mightn't be better. He's better, obviously, in some positions than another, but he's going to do a fantastic job in any one of those positions. But it will be interesting to see what way that midfield four sets up, because Thomas Frank might do an Aston Villa, and he might do an Unai Emery on this and play 3 at the back and then play 5 central midfielders across the midfield to completely try and stifle us as well. I'm worried from that point of view, because Douglas Luiz has been such a creative element for us this season.
Yeah, and look, I agree with you. I think it will be Dendoncker. I think it will be Dendoncker and Luiz sitting with Ramsey and McGinn either side of them is how I see it, with potentially Watkins and take your pick from Zaniolo, Diaby. If Bailey is out, it won't be him, obviously, and Duran on the bench, I would imagine, from the other night. Obviously, Moreno will start. I would imagine. Did you notice last night I'm getting really irate at Matty Cash?
I did. Yeah, I did. I think Matty Cash, because Matty Cash was playing as a, and I didn't say this on the podcast last night, the post-match podcast, but Matty, I think the reason he was getting annoyed at him was Matty Cash was supposed to be that third centre half, but Matty Cash was popping up in their box for a period of time as well, and he scuffed a couple of chances. Now, once again, I think he was trying too hard, but I did see him get annoyed at Matty Cash a small bit on the touchline, but he's been known to do that. And when he first came into the club as well, there was a lot of waving and gesticulating at Matty Cash to try and keep him positionally disciplined, I suppose, on that side as well. So I didn't read too much into it from that point of view.
Well, the reason I read into it is because he has opted to play Konza at right back instead of playing Matty Cash over the last few games. So is it something that's in the back of his mind? And look, we all think that the number one signing is either a backup or somebody to replace Matty Cash in January. So that's the one area where, you know, we all know everybody loves Konza, but we want to see him playing at centre half because he's such a brilliant footballer and that's his natural position. So I worry about Matty Cash. I worry about his future. You just see a different side of Unai Emery when he's talking to Matty Cash from what I can see. That's just me reading deeply into the body language and how he speaks to him during the game, and I just thought it was particularly prevalent last night as well.
Yeah, look, I'd imagine maybe Matty Cash might play in that more forward right midfield side role as well at the weekend.
Yeah.
You know, it given that if Bailey isn't playing, that's probably where I would play him. Put McGinnon beside Kamara and play Ramsey out on the left hand side, and I think that probably gives you stability in that midfield. But saying that as well, you know, putting Ramsey on the left, McGinn on the right, and then Donker and Kamara in the middle as well. Maybe pushing Kamara maybe a small bit further forward into that number 8 role as opposed to a 6 role and see what happens there as well. That's an option too. Obviously, if, as you say, Tielemans isn't ready to go, might be a big day for Tommy O'Reilly. Maybe he gets minutes from the bench as well, you know, because we will be threadbare in midfield. But I can't imagine him not using Matty Cash in some shape or form from the off at the weekend. But you know, even though we do have 2 people in Tielemans and Bailey that are potential injury worries, we still have options for our first 11. But it will be interesting to see what happens then from a bench point of view. Specifically, I suppose, with the two, I keep on calling them red cards, the 2 suspensions that we have there as well. And once again, I said this before the Munster game, it'd be a lovely weekend for Bertrand Traoré to just be fit again. You know, it's like it'd be a lovely weekend, but he's not. And when we need him the most to be fit, he tends not to be. You know, so it's very unfortunate for him as well. Now, some of the other players they're going to be missing too as well are some of the guys in midfield, like Matthias Jensen, who's a real good player for them. My boy, Nathan Collins, looks like he's going to be injured. He is injured. He's going to be out at the weekend as well. And Josh Da Silva. So the midfield battle is going to be where it's going to be won for me, because if Josh Da Silva and Matthias Jensen are out, they're getting a bit threadbare in middle of midfield as well. And, you know, they may not be able to play that 4 or 5 midfielders across the middle unless they play a Lewis Potter on the right maybe and play a Yanlet on the left and go with 3 centre halves. But so it's what I'm getting at here is we're the 15th of December and we're beginning to see the attrition of the league already. You see it with the likes of Spurs. You see it with the likes of with Brentford at the moment, and there's a couple of other teams out there that are really suffering with injuries at the moment. Newcastle, the same. Chelsea have been suffering with injuries, although they've got 728 players, I think, at last census. Like they don't count players; they have to have a census every week at training to know how many players that they have on their squad. And we've been relatively fine. We've been relatively okay, you know.
I think we've managed it fairly well, you know.
We have, yeah.
I wouldn't even talk about us in the likes of Spurs. I think where their problem is that they've got fucking idiots flying into fucking tackles. I didn't see Basuma sent off tonight. Fucking madness. I wonder who they're going to blame for that now. But yeah. Straight red card, given a yellow card, upgraded to a red. I didn't see exactly what happened, but you know, Romero going into challenges earlier on as well. I saw that one, absolutely nuts, and that's going to bite them in the ass. But I think we've managed our squad very, very well, despite all the injuries, everything that's been thrown at us, the extra games, the Thursday night, the Sunday night, the Thursday night, the Sunday night. He's managed it impeccably well. To be only getting to this stage and being worrying about injuries, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at as well there. The management of the injuries, the management of from Unai Emery to be able to like against Burnley when he started Matty Cash in that right midfield role against Burnley. I think it was first this season. Not a lot of people would have pulled that one out of the hat. I don't think they would have, but we do have. It shows the versatility of certain players, and it probably also shows as well that we are probably one or two players still short of a full bag with this team. And it'll be interesting to see what he does at the in January coming up from that point of view. A couple of people asking. About Olsen. Rod Humble asks about Olsen. Olsen is injured. He's injured at the moment. So Philip Marshall, hot off his debut in Bosnia, will probably be the man on the bench for us this weekend as well.
Just a brief word on Philip Marshall. I saw a few people going all in on him. He's a young lad making his debut. You know, there was a couple of errors. Possibly the one that hit Chambers was probably Chambers' fault for not getting out of the way as well. So we've got.
That's the only real error I can think of, Paddy.
We can't be going in on him like that. I just think it's absolute madness. And as you always say, don't tell people how to be a fan. I think there's something seriously wrong if you're going to blame him for anything that happened last night. It was a pedestrian game. His footwork was absolutely excellent. I thought he's learning off the master, and we could have potentially a ready-made replacement there and not have to sign somebody. So let's not have anybody going all in on him, because there's great potential there. You know, he has been named in Polish squads despite the fact that he hadn't played a first team game for Aston Villa. So he's well capable and very highly thought of. But we've just got to get behind these players as well. And we've seen players come good. We've seen Dendoncker play very well. You know, as somebody quite rightly pointed out in the comments there, the two best games Dendoncker played was when we beat Man U last year and we beat Newcastle. Yep. So he's well capable of it too. I know he looks slow and cumbersome. That's just his style. That's not going to change. He's always been that way. But a decent footballer who breaks up play, and you know, he's our footballer, so we have to get behind him and trust him to go and do the job that we hope to do. We know he's a little bit casual, but then again, so Kamara has been very casual on the ball as well, and has had a couple of ricks like that during the season. So they're all capable of it. They're all human, and I still believe, bearing in mind what they are missing compared to what we have, should be enough to go and beat them. Hopefully, nothing more comes to light between now and the game on Sunday. But other than that, I'm very, very positive about the weekend.
Yeah, and just my 2 cents in the Philip Marshall piece. Like, I didn't speak much about him in the post-match podcast. I spoke about the one that hit off Callum Chambers' back, because that could have been something that ended up on a question of sports, what happened next piece, because it was just so out of the blue. But apart from that, he didn't have much to do. He didn't, like, people were being overly picky for him. I would agree with that. Like, he's a kid who's coming off 2 loan spells at Gateshead, and then to make the step up against the champions of Bosnia, who, you know, whatever people want to believe about them, are definitely the best opposition he has ever played against. I thought he was absolutely fine. I thought he came in and he suited our style of play from a passing point of view. Don't really think there was much he could have done for the goal. You know, at the end of the day, he's a 19-year-old kid playing the most high pressure position in the field. You know,
and he did well. Yeah, did very well, I thought. And look,
I think so too.
Learning from the best, he actually cuts a mold of Emi Martinez in the goal. He's a big figure. You could see in the way he was handling himself, he's learning from the master. So, yeah, look, I think he's a good, viable option to have in the future. And with a little bit of game time, he'll come good. Yeah,
I agree with you too. Yeah, do you know what's really interesting? They must have made an update to the software here, because now I can see when people from Twitter are leaving comments. Couldn't see that before. And also, we're having a go at streaming live on the app that shall not be named, the one that I never really go on and have neglected the whole time. We're having a go at streaming that on Instagram today too, just to see, because I've had a lot of it. I'm not. I look at your stuff just to make sure that you're not, just to make sure that you're okay. I don't need to have an intervention with you. That's what it is. But and also Treds came to Ireland. Treds finally came to Ireland as well. So there's too many social media platforms at the moment. I need to stream down on those, but the amount of social media platforms we're on anyway isn't going to win us this game at the weekend. But I think what will win us this game at the weekend is the likes of Diaby will need to step up. That's not to say I think that's probably overly negative the way I've worded that, because it's not as if he's been dreadful or anything like that. It's just he's not been as good as when he came into the team, first of all. But then again, when the team is on a huge run of form and beating the Arsenal and Man City teams of this world, you're not going to just elbow your way into that team. We know he can play within this team, and we know he has played well within this team as well. He's still gotten a couple of assists over the last few weeks as well. So it would be nice to see him back up top against Watkins. And I think that's where he will play at the weekend, regardless of who's fit. I think he's going to come back into the team, and I'd love to see his pace up against Ben Mee. And if they do play Jan at left back, I'd love to see him to just hawk out there on that right hand side and use his pace against both of those players. Because I just like he's been a fantastic signing so far. He's had a bit of a lull since he had that back injury, and maybe he's playing through that back injury. Who knows? But I think that he's going to be the one that's going to back up Watkins in that more forward role, and I'm expecting a better performance from him at the weekend, and I just think this team will suit him. What's been your views on him, Paddy? Some people have been kind of asking questions about him recently as well.
Sorry, I just got a message there. And I wasn't paying attention. Who are you asking me about?
Diaby, Moussa Diaby.
Yeah, look, he hasn't fired the way we expected him to fire. To me, he looks like a guy who's possibly playing slightly out of position. I would like to say we've seen what he can do when he goes that little bit wider. When he cut inside and got the goal, was that Warsaw? I think, was it when he got the space out
sure.
wide? He seems to be playing very narrow, and it to me it doesn't seem to suit him. And who am I to judge him for that? And look, we always knew it was going to take time, as it does for people to come into this league, no matter who they're playing for, and hit the ground running. Not everybody can do what Erling Haaland did when he came to the Premier League. So, as I keep saying, we gave Leon Bailey 2 years. He came good. We have to give this guy time to settle. If that means he comes in and out of the team, so be it. And he, for me, he seems like someone that we should be playing a little bit wider in a 3 instead of a 2 with Ollie Watkins. But that's just me being picky. It's very hard to be picky when you see what Unai Emery is doing. But, he's openly said he's played Zaniolo out of position. I believe that there's a possibility that Diaby is not overly comfortable in that position. And if he's trying to retrain him, that's going to take time.
And speaking of Zaniolo as well, Paddy, coming off the back of his goal yesterday against Mostar, do you think maybe he might get a start? I don't see it myself, because I think that we can utilise the midfield the way to a better pattern without him, and have him on the bench to bring on for maybe a Diaby, or even to freshen it up within that midfield. But it just doesn't seem like a game he would start for me.
No, I wouldn't think so. And look, that's harsh. He got his first goal. You would think he would be oozing confidence after last night. You just don't know what way he's feeling and what Unai is feeling about it. So we'll just reserve judgment until he picks the team. But I was absolutely delighted for him to get the goal. I thought it was very important for him, in his development here. And him of all people, he won't get the time that Diaby has to settle in, because he's only a lone player. So it's up to him to do his utmost best when he gets his opportunity, whereas Diaby is there on a long contract, so he can take all the time he likes. So there's a lot of pressure on him. You see him probably overdo things in games, and he looked very natural last night in the small bit of play we played in that part of the pitch. And he took his goal very well, and I was very happy for him.
Let's move on, I suppose, from the preview to this game, because Aston Villa did have a bit of other news today as well, and it broke. I'll pop it up here on the screen that V Sports announces investment from Atarius I think is how you pronounce it. They're an investment capital company that have come and joined the club. But V Sports obviously will continue to own, it says here. So let's read through it here so I don't paraphrase it here in case anybody hasn't seen it. A joint venture of Nassif Swiris and Wes Edens and the owner of Aston, the owner. It's very poorly worded. A joint V Sports SCS, a joint venture of Nassif Swiris and Wes Edens and the owner of Aston Villa FC Limited and Aston Villa Women's Football Club Limited is pleased to announce. That's fucking tough to get through. There's lots of ands there as well. Then two of them at least seem misplaced. Anyway, is pleased to announce that it has entered into an agreement with Atarius to become a partner in V Sports. V Sports will continue to own 100% of Aston Villa post-closing of the transaction and will continue to have full control of decisions. Under the terms of the agreement, Atarius will invest to become minority partners in V Sports. Atarius capital investment will primarily be used to fund growth and infrastructure investments with the aim of creating material and sustainable value for AVFC and the broader V Sports network over time. The transaction marks the exceptional achievements of AVFC under V Sports stewardship over the last 5 years and positions the club firmly for an exciting new phase of growth. The transaction is subject to Premier League approval, customary conditions of relevant regulatory approvals and consents being obtained. I'm not going to read the rest of it, but you guys can go and find it there as well, especially with regards to the company itself. But I will come down and I will mention this as well. Atarius is an independent strategic investment company focused on supporting growth-oriented businesses across a wide range of industries. Atarius provides a unique combination of active strategic partnership and patient long-term capital to high-potential companies and their management teams. It was launched in 2016 and has 6.5 billion of equity capital. Its offices in New York City and Philadelphia, and you can visit their website there if you want to. Paddy, we've spoken about this I suppose via WhatsApp today. What it came out of the blue. I don't think anybody had this on their bingo card. Also, I know that there was rumors that Villa were looking for more investment within another investment partner, and we've now got it. I think a lot of people will be wooed by the 6.5 billion number of equity capital in there because it's a wooing type of number, specifically for a management fund that's only been up and running for 7 years. What's your views on it there, Paddy? Because I think the 6.5 billion piece is I don't think it means anything, to be honest with you.
No, and look, we come here to talk about football and transfers, and I'll give you my opinion on that all day long. But when we start to diversify and talk about finances and financial investments, that goes way over my head and way over my pay grade. It's something that completely washes over me, and I literally, my eyes start to glaze over as I look at it. Obviously, it's something significant that they felt the need that they had to announce it today. The one thing I took from the statement was it said an awful lot without actually saying anything at all.
Yeah.
With regard to what they're actually going to do. So, it's obviously a good thing. The one thing when I put down the phone after reading the statement, I shrugged my shoulders and I said, if Wes Edens and Nassif Swiris think this is a good thing, that's okay with me. They are the guys that we've trusted to look after our club. I believe that they will do it absolutely in the right way and leave us with nothing else to worry about other than what goes on the football pitch, what Unai Emery does, who he picks at the weekend. All that kind of stuff is what we're here for, and we're blessed that we're in the position that we've got really good managers who have what seems to be the club at heart, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, like they're legitimate entity, it seems. Like I was looking through their website earlier on as well, and they have partners to help grow companies such as like Groupon, and they do have a presence in sports already through some golfing investments. I think that they have as well, within the United States too. But I think the big thing here for me, this big piece here, is it mentions there it's about structural and infrastructural pieces. I would imagine that they're going to utilize this investment capital company in the short term to fund the Villa Park deal, so that it allows Aston Villa potentially to stay under the bringing in a new investor like this. I don't know if this is true. No, this is just the gospel according to Neil. So if there's any financial heads out there, please feel free to tell me I'm bonkers on this one. But I would imagine it would allow us to be able to fund any developments to the infrastructure of Villa Park in the short term by bringing in a new partner. Maybe it might even be a way to circumnavigate some of those fundings towards that infrastructure within one of the financial fair play aspects or something. I don't know. Also, potentially, if we are looking to expedite, I suppose, those pieces as well, maybe there might be an extra funding needed to say to Birmingham City Council, hey, look, listen, we need the stations done around here. We can't be sitting on our hands here for this, and potentially something along those lines. But I think that's really small fry stuff, I would imagine, with regards to this. When you bring in an investment company like this smells massively to me of the foothold in the United States within the sports group, and maybe getting into an MLS gig in the United States, that they would bring in a partner here so they don't, as the V Sports family grows into like Vissel Kobe and Vittoria and Zed and Real Union, and as that continues to grow, having another partner in there that would help with maybe putting their business methodologies or whatever, or their business structures and infrastructural structures in place there, might actually help here, because obviously these guys are in it for money. They're in it for short-term capital. They're going to be, I'd say they'll be in and out within maybe a 5 to 7 year period. The stadium will be built, they'll help finance it, and then they take an X amount of a pay cut. And the same thing then, I would imagine, with the Las Vegas Villains. If that gets off the ground, these guys, their investment will be protected. And if it does get off the ground, I would imagine they'll be a huge partner with this to show, probably, I suppose, the size of the venture to the MLS, and the fact that, okay, we won't be juggling too many plates with the owners of Aston Villa, and then obviously setting up a brand new entity or a brand new franchise in the MLS as well, something that these guys could be part of as well. I don't see them being a long-term investor. I think this could be like a warp speed version of where Edens and Suarez want us to go, but I think they're trying to bring it into maybe a 5-year plan now with these investors, as opposed to maybe a 7 or 8 year plan, because of the success we're having on the field. Because we can't just turn around what we've got in the field now with our success. We can't just turn around now and go, okay, let's pause that, and then let's sell a couple of players, and let's stagnate there, and let's concentrate on building the ground up and building infrastructure there. I think we've gotten to a position like we have earlier than we thought. We've always said that, and bringing these guys on allows us then to kind of function on two fronts. Not that we wouldn't have been able to do so before, but I think it's bringing more adults into the room, I think, is what this one is. But I could be 100% wrong.
And I'm 90% sure one of my favourite podcasts, the Price of Football podcast, will cover it at some stage.
Get on to Kieran and see.
I was refreshing my podcasts downloads today to see when anything pop up, but they already had one out today, so it was unlikely they were going to come on just for that. But I would imagine they'll pick it up and probably give us some more meat on the bones and see what they think of the whole situation. But I personally, I'm not worried about it. I can only see it as a positive, and let them look after what's happening behind the scenes after all these years of people who have mistreated our club, let's say. So we're in a much, much healthier position than we would have ever imagined 5 years ago. So the trust for me is all with them, and let's see what they can do.
Absolutely, I agree here, and just looking at their partnership matrix here as well, just from actually the people involved. There's a lot. There's a lot of open collar shirts there, and fellas who look like they've been to some high profile schools in their time in the United States. So we'll see what comes of that. But I don't tend to get too wooed by professional headshot photographs anyway, at least specifically when it comes to business. But anyway, I think that's probably going to do it, Paddy. I think we're going to leave it at that. I think, but we will be back with Team Sheet Tantrums and post-match podcasts for a Brentford game at the weekend. If you guys haven't looked at the Ealing Road podcast that I did with Michael couldn't come on tonight. That's why he wasn't able to reciprocate and pop on as well. Do have a look at it. It's he's a really great guy, and we talk a small bit about Brentford in it as well. It is Villa heavy, but he's a really good guy, and I really enjoyed talking to him as well. And you get more insight with regards to the Brentford side of things there as well. But yeah, I think we're going to leave it at that. I don't know how successful this was on Instagram. If anybody's been watching this on Instagram, well then thank you is all I can say, because I clicked on the button and then I could hear myself twice, and then I went, okay, yeah, I've no idea what's happening here. So I just closed out of the window. So maybe you guys got the first 30 seconds, but if you did enjoy it, thanks very much. And thanks to everybody who watched and listened. If you could give us a thumbs up on your way out, if you haven't done so already, there's about 140 people watching here. Give us a thumbs up on your way out, and really appreciate it, because it'll drive the algorithm nuts. But until Sunday at 12:50, when the Team Sheet Tantrum will be on, we will leave you and love you, and I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.